Instagram or on Facebook.
Oh, good. All right.
And we're getting live on Facebook or we're live on...
This technology.
Yeah, now I need to touch this to here.
Take this one out.
I didn't realize I had this as the camera holder.
My job is easy. I just have tequila.
Yeah,
This is why I drink
put it
it.
in there. So. Or I can see.
Yeah, this is I have it in my bag right there. Here, hold the camera.
I hold. I
Tequila
have
is
to take it out.
This is why alcohol is important in
We
life.
could start. You could come.
All right. So we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we might as well get started since I've already gotten started. Like last week, I'd like to introduce my friend Paramal.
Cheers.
And he's going to be asking questions that come directly out of Instagram and Facebook. So he's walking away from me and sitting down so he can ask the questions. And I'm doing my job, which is drinking.
And plus
That's my job.
Your job is drinking, and plus I'm walking away because the audience wants to see you, not me. Question for you, Art.
Yes.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking a very strong margarita made by my friend and cohort of 27 years, Gabriel Jacan, who is being socially isolated on a different continent from where his family and he lives. He cannot get back to Thailand for the last 4 weeks and for the foreseeable future, so he's made the tequila, made the drink, margarita, though he's never drank tequila in his life. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So he's making, and I told him the average margarita has 4 shots of tequila, and he believed me.
And I listened to it.
And he listens to me. That's
You
what
guys-
happens.
You guys are gonna pay for it.
27 years of working together, and he's making margaritas, and that's not half bad.
I can attest to the fact that it's great margarita, and that means you're in fine company.
All right.
Well, you're getting some lovely highs from the audience, and they're saying you look fabulous.
Fabulous. Thank you. Obviously, my audience is drinking as well.
I hope so. Well, let's hear from the audience. What are you guys drinking? I mean, Art is drinking margarita.
Yeah.
What are you all drinking?
Yeah.
Let's see what they're drinking. I mean, at some places it's okay. 4 shots of tequila. Hi, Gab. That's wow. Okay, that's cool. Question. Okay, let's get started. This is again based on the questions from the audience from last time.
Okay. And you're mixing it with questions coming in. Right?
That's right.
Okay.
We'll just weave it in. We'll just have a conversation.
Okay.
And as we get drunk, maybe it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Any great travel stories from this past year?
Well, from this year, I believe,
Okay.
right?
Go for it.
So, yeah, we're only into 4 months, and I've already traveled throughout South Asia as well as South America and Antarctica. So in Asia, I was down in Komodo Island where I was photographing Komodo dragons with a 16 millimeter wide angle, which meant I had the camera on a tethered pole with wheels underneath it so I could wheel it right up under Komodo dragons because you do not want to get bit by a dragon. They're up to 9 feet long and they
Oh my
have
God.
absolute zero fear of humans and they have a poisonous bite. And if you get bit, you chop off a limb, seriously. So
Oh my God.
I didn't want to get bit, but I wanted a wide angle shot. So I got those shots from about this far away. And at one point I was laying on my belly and one was coming straight at me and I got that with a 1-400 and probably within about 6 feet I got up and kind of scurried away. The other great story that happened this year was I was down in Patagonia in Torres del Paine National Park in southern Chile and I had 6 basic adult lions around me. Adult pumas, cougars, they're all the same thing, mountain lions.
Wow.
And it was a mother with 4 really fully grown adolescents chasing each other, and then another interloper was there, so we had 6 different lions. There was 2 of us, and they were literally running around, chasing each other, playing, and just completely unafraid of us, or not annoyed, I should say, of us. So that was a great experience.
Wow. So let me guess, you survived both those encounters.
Yeah, that's pretty strong margarita. You figure it out now.
Well, let me ask you this. Based on that story, it's an interesting story. Do you ever wonder this is a great shot, but it's not worth getting killed for?
All the time.
All the time. You
Of
do the
course.
analysis in your mind. You think about it.
I think once you get into the flow, you kind of still are reliant on your own instincts, your years of experience. It's not to say that I haven't had missteps along the way as I was learning my trade, and I've put myself in harm's way a couple of times in the past. You learn from that and you move forward and you don't do those stupid things again. And that's just the evolution of the skills that you learn in the field over 45 years.
Wow, it's been 45 years?
Yeah.
Do you keep track of time?
No.
That's good. You're forever young.
But 45 years ago, I really became a professional. I graduated from the University of Washington, and I spent 1 year as a substitute substitute teacher in the school district. But yeah, that was the last time I actually worked for somebody, and then I became a professional on my own.
So one really good question I just got from Facebook is there any place you have not been to that you're looking forward to someday?
Yeah, the entire Arabian Peninsula I would like to explore. Oman would be the first country I'd like to see. I was just in Jordan in November, and that was a beautiful country. But I want to get in the southern quarter, the empty quarter as they call it, the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. I'm doing this book that I might have mentioned last week called Act of Faith. And so Islam is a huge part of that, and I would love to go to Oman and photograph that. I mean, unfortunately, I won't be able to get into neighboring, what's the neighboring?
Saudi Arabia?
No, well, that's
That-
actually...
Mecca?
No, don't.
Okay.
You're only confusing me more. Well, there's the margarita happening with a 68-year-old brain. I'll get back to you, as I say, when I'm on stage.
Okay, got it. Question.
Yemen is the country. See, just a
Was it
slight
Yemen?
delay. Yeah, Yemen.
Are you
is-
Gabriel a mind reader? How did you know?
He's a world traveler as well.
Oh, there you go. Question from the audience.
Yes.
Have you posted those dragon photos anywhere? How can people see those photos?
We'll post them tomorrow.
Great idea.
Yeah. So I got some really nice shots. I mean, they're big lizards basically, and they're not colorful. They don't have spots or stripes, but their sheer ugliness is alluring and charming. And so that was what I was after. In fact, that's for a book that will come out in a couple of years called, it's called, I don't know what the title is. We had a great title, and then somebody just came out with the same title this year, so we can't do that. But it will be a look at wildlife during the Anthropocene, which is the age of man. How animals have adapted to increase human presence, how they have adapted just to the changes in climate, and all those things will come into play during this production of the book.
Speaking of which, that's a good segue. You know, one question we got last time, and I just saw someone post a very similar question is, I mean, you started with wildlife, you've done work beyond wildlife to like human canvas.
Right.
What's the difference and what do you like more? Is there a favorite?
No. The answer is no. I have kept really interested in photography and enthusiastic over the years simply because I keep evolving my intellect, my eye, my curiosity, and so other than weddings, I used to say I'm not photographing anything. I photograph everything except graduations and bar mitzvahs, and yet just last October in Israel I was photographing a bar mitzvah, so I can't say that anymore. But in fact, whatever I train my cameras on becomes the most important thing for me, and so I'm that focused. I dive in deep on projects, and whatever is in front of my camera becomes the most important thing to me at the time.
Got it. Well, one question from the audience. When did you decide you want to be a photographer? Or when did you know that, you know, your life's calling is photography?
Well, I've said this in the past. It was during the art school days at the University of Washington. Started climbing on weekends, and I got an old Konica camera during Christmas from my parents, and I started taking that along on the hikes, and boy, once I started taking pictures and seeing the results, my allegiance has shifted from painting to photography. I think I mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
So it was During, I would say, 1975 would be the really shift in my interest.
Got it. One more question from the audience from on Instagram, Rick Tackett 16. Rick, you're a lucky man today. What are you shooting with these days? What's in your bag?
Oh boy, I've got the latest Canon cameras. Not the latest. The latest will be released later this summer. Now that the Olympics have been delayed by 1 year, Canon will undoubtedly still release the cameras this fall. And those cameras will replace what I've got in my bag. I've got a Leica system, which I've used during the production of the human canvas. The real answer, however, is all the cameras these days are pretty comparable. So though I shoot Canon and I'm loyal to the Canon brand because they've been loyal to me, I think Sony and Nikon are really strong cameras. There's other brands out there. So we all benefit from the competition of these cameras competing and elevating the technology which feeds our love and our passions.
So sounds like your audience knows a thing or two about you. They say that besides lenses, you also have a good basket collection. Is that true?
I do. In fact, the very first book I ever did was called Indian Baskets of the Northwest Coast. If it was published today, I'm sure it would be called First Nations Baskets of the Northwest Coast. But during the years at college, I also nearly got a minor in cultural anthropology. But to this day, I can tell you which baskets are from which nation, from the Columbia River all the way to the Aleutian Islands. So I studied Northwest Coast Indian art, carvings, masks, all that just is part and parcel of who I am today. That knowledge and cultural history is important.
Is it okay to ask a personal question from the audience?
Yes.
Here's what we're going to do. If you don't like the question, I'll blame the audience. If you like the question, I take the credit.
Hear it.
How does okay?
Let's hear it.
Okay, this is from Brandon Reese. Reese, I don't know how to pronounce it. Brandon, you're a lucky man. His question to you is, are you single? If so, let's grab a drink.
I am single. And it is Brandon, right?
It is Brandon.
Yeah, I am single. Yeah, nobody would want to marry me because I travel all the time. In fact, the only pets I have is these terracotta dogs and cats that I got in Guadalajara right after Christmas as I was down buying tequila and photographing the cultures. So the actual truth is I have pet koi. But I think I could die and they wouldn't even notice. As long as somebody feeds them, that's all they care about. But on my property, oh, this is good. Now I'm just kind of babbling as old.
Go for it. It's the margarita.
Oh, you know what? We just discovered the hummingbird that's right off my deck about 30 feet away. In their nest, the babies just hatched. So the mother is feeding the babies. These are rufous-sided hummingbirds. And every year it makes a nest very close to my house. I've got water flowing in my garden, you know, with a recycled pump, and so it brings in owls at night. I've got a barred owl, screech owl, and great horned owl. There's sharp-shinned hawks. There's, of course, the raccoons that love to tear up the moss in the yard. So this is a menagerie with water in the garden. It's a magnet to animals, and that's what I love. But I don't have any pets, and no, I am not married.
That's good to know. Well, just for the audience, I'm single too. Not that you care, but might as well just share. Single and straight and happy to mingle.
You should post a photo of yourself and then you can get a date.
Well, the folks here, please tag me so that, you know, I don't mind getting lucky
Is
here,
this
right?
tequila with heart or winning a date with Paramount? That's the difference here.
You know what? I'm game for anything. The margaritas, Gabrielle, the margarita is excellent. Really good. It's working. Now you can see it's working. By the way, people like this up and personal. So I think some of these questions...
Well, you know, last week we had a DUI because we were showcasing our social distancing, but nobody wants to see you anyway, so we made it tighter on me.
How gracious of him, right? How gracious. Thank you very much,
You
Art.
did make chicken curry.
I did make chicken curry for you. Yes. Okay. Any other interesting kind of stories? I heard that you had a really interesting bear episode.
You know, I tell this story, and I had a group with me. They would verify it. Over the last, I want to say, 7 or 8 years, we've been guiding tours up in Katmai National Park. And over the years, there's been families with tiny cubs that I've photographed. And you recognize the bear from one year to the other. They're just like dogs. They have very unique faces. And in this particular case, I remember about 5 years ago photographing a mother with tiny, tiny cubs for 4 days in a row. Now, my voice is pretty distinctive.
Yes,
I mean,
I 100% agree with that. What do you think,
we're not
Adi?
saying it's good. We're just saying.
I never said it's good. I just said it's distinctive.
All right. So anyway, this past year, last July, we were up there, and that tiny cub that I photographed 5 years ago, and in each subsequent year, now is a mother and has 3 tiny cubs. And that mother, I kid you not, sought me out with my group and would bring her cubs up within about 8 feet of where we were sitting, and she would deposit the cubs right on the bank or right on the gravel bar right in front of us. And she would go out 100 yards upriver fishing and come back down to her cubs right in front of us with a big salmon. And that happened multiple times. And the first time that happened, everybody that was eating their lunch wanted to get up and kind of scurry away. I just say, sit, wait, this bear knows us. And she just left the cubs, and the cubs are just like cuddling right in front of our group.
It's so amazing.
Fantastic. So that only shows how animals become habituated and comfortable around humans. And the more they do, the longer, the better they are, actually. And we see that in Seattle parks. When I was growing up, it would be rare to see a bald eagle. Now, almost half the Seattle parks have nesting bald eagles, which are producing offspring that are much more casual around humans. And I think, my personal opinion, the more they become habituated, the less stressed they are. Hence, down in Patagonia, we have 6 mountain lions playing around us without really being fearful or aggressive towards us. It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. Well, speaking of wildlife, here's the question from Andrew. What's the best way to kind of improve wildlife if someone doesn't have the financial, means to learn and is also full-time, so really busy?
Well, depending on where Andrew lives, there's undoubtedly some parks, some state parks, maybe some natural beaches, some national parks. I mean, if barring taking a class from me or any of my very fine colleagues, you could certainly buy a book. Most of ourselves, from Jim Brandenburg and Tom Mangelson, Franz Lanting, Jim Baylog, we all have books. And so you could learn from what we've written in those books, or simply go out and put digital, captures through the camera, and you just learn from experience as well.
Interesting. Well, as you're at home, and actually this is a question for both you and Gav, you too. As you're stuck at home,
Ask a question of Gav.
I have no idea, I'm impressed, but the question is, how do you express creativity right now while you're at home? Besides having margaritas and making margaritas.
How do we express freedom?
And creativity.
Oh, creativity. That's a great question.
I'll take credit for that.
Last week that I've been working on long delayed projects on my property. I have a great old house that I was able to buy in 1986. Nobody wanted the house because it was simply covered in ivy. So I bought the house for a dime, and I unearthed the house from the ivy. And over the years, I've really manicured the house, put money into the house. It's a great place, and it's got a green belt right next to it. So I take care of not only my property, but I also intrude into the green belt to remove invasive species, which is the bane of my existence. Freedom and creativity comes with that, because when I'm working in the yard, I'm thinking about where I want to go next, or the projects I'm currently working on. Just that getting dirt under the fingernails and working the land is really nourishing and mentally supportive. And so if you don't have land you can work on, I said this last week, go out and walk the neighborhood, go to a city park if you can. Get into nature, because nature is healing, and it's just a primal necessity for humans as far as I'm concerned. I'm working on a series of lectures called Pathways to Creativity, and I've been working on it on the computer ever since last week, and I'm getting close to having that finished. And so that's also tapping into the other part of my brain that needs that work and thought processes going on. So that's what I do.
Interesting. One more personal question from the audience. And I'll stand a little back so that they hear you more. Do you like cooking?
You know, I do cook. I can actually cook. I can't follow a cookbook, but I have that instinct of putting different flavors together. I'm really quite good, although I only cook about 5 or 6 times a year.
What do you
I have
cook?
a very nice kitchen, but I'm on the road all the time. Gabrielle is a good cook, and in the last month, he has been the primary cook, and I love doing dishes because it cleans the dirt out of my fingernails from what I just accrued during the day. So I'm the dishwasher, he's the cook, and so far so good.
So far, so good. What do you like to eat?
Everything, except for beets. Beets and liver. Those are the 2 things. Otherwise, I eat everything. But since Gab doesn't eat red meat, we haven't had red meat over the last month and a half. And so, yeah, fish, chicken, whatever, pasta, pizza, salmon the other night,
And chicken curry tonight.
and chicken curry tonight.
We'll see how that goes.
There you go.
One more question. Speaking of nature and gardening, how's your Japanese garden?
It's beautiful. It is so beautiful, and it's so zen to work on it. And we're coming up in July. That's where I spend 2 weeks bonsaiing these trees, because all trees want to be big trees. And so when you're bonsaiing a tree, you have to kind of trim all the needles, which are the new growth on the pine trees. And it's complete, I mean, I smell so fresh. I smell like pine for 2 weeks. But everything I touch sticks to me because you're covered in pitch. The minute you cut a branch on a pine, it puts out pitch immediately, and that gets all over you. So I'm washing clothes every night, using Goo Gone to clean my hands, my trimming utensils, but the trees look beautiful. And, you know, I have no doubt when I'm too old to do it, the trees are overgrown, the weeds will come back, and yeah. But as long as I have energy in my body, I am going to keep trying to tame nature. And that's what a Japanese garden really is all about.
Interesting. Well, your audience would love to see your garden someday. Is that something we could do one of these episodes, maybe next
Well,
Tequila Time?
I think we learned from last week what to do. You know, it's about bandwidth because everybody's home now watching Netflix. The bandwidth is weaker than it normally would be. But if we can get one of these iPhones, which we're filming this with, out in the garden, we'll do it next week. We'll do a little walkthrough.
Okay, well, the audience, if you would like to see Art's garden, please, send the love and, in the comments, and let's try to see how we can try to do it one of these days. One of the Thursdays with the drink in hand. Speaking of drinks, do you need one more margarita or you're okay?
No, I think I'll go straight to
Oh my
shots.
God. Okay, there you go. Well, he's gonna have some tequila straight shots, so this is the time when you can ask him whatever questions you want.
Yeah. There should be no questions that I can't answer.
Oh, that's a challenge. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's a
Is that a challenge? Are
It's
you
a
challenging the
modern
audience?
society, for Christ's sakes.
You have thousands of people online. That's a tough challenge. Okay.
I may lie about the answer, but yes.
What are some strange things you've eaten while on the road?
He doesn't eat strange.
Well, you're right, Gabrielle. Gabrielle says I don't eat anything strange, and it's true. Gabrielle will eat insects intentionally. I'm sure I've eaten a lot of insects unintentionally. I can remember being in Uganda, and I saw this kid on the side of the road that had a big bag of sugar snap peas, and I was so excited because I do like those. As we were approaching the kid, it became obvious they were all green grasshoppers. Like, no, I don't intentionally eat insects, but I did eat, well, no, that's not true. On one of our episodes of Travels to the Edge, when we were in North Australia, I snapped the back of a honey ant and sucked the honey out of the abdomen. That's pretty disgusting. If I can answer that, then there's no questions you can ask that I can't answer.
But if you are in the Arctic, you do eat insects.
In the Arctic?
Yes, mosquitoes. There are so
Oh,
many
yeah.
that.
I mean,
I'm just joking.
I've eaten a lot of mosquitoes. They're in your oatmeal, in your soup, in everything.
In Arctic.
Well, the Arctic is where the mosquitoes really are.
This is news to me.
You're so
Yes.
Indian.
This is news to me. I mean, is that common sense? I don't think it is. Did you know?
I don't know.
I didn't
Yes.
know that. Okay, audience, question for you, poll. Did you know the mosquitoes grow in the Arctic? Is that...
Well, they don't grow. They just hatch in the Arctic. And to the degree, and it's quite honest, that they can kill a caribou. A new calf caribou can be bled dry.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it's not a great way of dying. So caribou are on the move. They are migratory animals. They're constantly moving, and especially driven by hordes of mosquitoes that flourish in the Arctic.
Apparently in Alaska, there's tons of insects and mosquitoes too, according to
That's the
Instagram.
Arctic.
That's
The
the
North
Arctic.
Slope of Alaska is what we're talking about.
Wow, interesting. Well, I learned something today.
So June, late June and early July, historically were the worst times to be there. But as climate is warming, and now I'm sure it's shifting into August, but it's the warmest part of the year, can be really bad. I mean, you're in your mosquito tent and you just hear this constant drum of mosquitoes trying to get at you.
Wow. Do you have a lot of mosquitoes in your garden too?
No.
Okay, that's good. That means they really want your garden tour. I think a lot of people would love to see that, so we should try to do that
There's
maybe
no
next time.
mosquitoes. We're lucky in Seattle. Mostly we can open our windows without mosquito netting or gnat netting. It's open to the fresh air.
Wow. Well, a random question again from your audience. What is the best time to visit the Grand Tetons?
I would say in September through the first couple weeks of October. Fall color, there's aspen forest, there's birch. They're beautiful, the willows are red, the bears are fat and sassy. You know, a good friend of mine, Tom Mangelson, lives right north of Grand Teton in Moose Junction. Beautiful little cabin there. He loves it. Another friend of mine, Jay Goodrich, lives with his family in Jackson, Wyoming. They live there because they're smart people and the scenery is extraordinary. But I would say the fall is the best time.
Interesting. Well, we are about almost done in terms of tequila time, and I can see you're almost done with your drink too.
All right.
Maybe one more question. Well, let me ask this question to you. Do you have a question to your audience?
Wow. Okay, let me think about that. That's it. Okay. Where, if you had the money and you have the drive to go see the world, where would you like me to lead you when our isolation ends? Where would you like to go? Give us a clue.
Okay.
Is it Africa? Is it Madagascar? Is it South America? Asia? Australia? Where would you like to go? Because I want to go everywhere.
How many countries have you been to so far?
I don't count.
You don't count?
I don't know how many days I travel, how many miles I've accrued, how many countries. I'm not that way. You know, I'm not like, some people travel just to tell you how many countries they've been to. I'm sure it's more than 3.
So I'm getting a lot of recommendations online, obviously. Rome, Antarctica, India, so many countries. Borneo, I'm sure more will come in, but at Madagascar, that's interesting. So yes, keep the comments coming.
Yeah.
But with drinks almost over and half an hour, I think people would like to do this maybe longer.
I have to say hi to those people. You're going to force me to put my glasses on. Okay, wow, there we go. Do I look more intelligent?
You look handsome.
All right. So I'm saying hi to my friends Oliver Tollison, Kevin Raber, Lisa Rene, Steve Shawley, Gretchen Shepard, Karen Fitzgerald, and Vicki Braden. Hi, you guys. Nice that you're joining us. Thank you.
Okay, with that, will we see you the same time next week?
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks a lot, Art, and thanks again for the
I do
audience.
have to say this.
Yeah.
I'm not drinking tequila every night. Otherwise, it wouldn't have quite the impact as once a week. And I am draining the old wine cupboard behind me over dinner, simply because old wine turns into vinegar. Even though I said wine takes too long, I do have a little bit of wine during dinner. Thank you, Gabrielle. But tequila is special, and so is these evenings, because as much as you may like to have interaction with me, I cherish having interaction with you. So let's do this next week as well.
Great. Thanks a lot, Art, and thanks everyone. See you same time next week.
Thanks, Paramount.